Hey, horror fans, once again, it is me, the Horror Miser, Monty G. Yes, now it's time to talk about my favorite thing. Now that I've done my 5 worst horror films, it is time to do my top 10 best horror films of 2020. Yes! Now, just like I did with my top 5 worst horror films of 2020, I actually will have 2 highly recommended films that didn't make my list, but I highly recommended them. And the first one is going to be the zombie film from South Korea called Alive, or Hashtag Alive. Now, Hashtag Alive was a 2020 South Korean zombie film that was directed by Cho In-young. I think I got that name right. Now, it starred Woo Ah-ying and Park Shin-lee. I think I got this right. It was actually based upon a 2019 script by Matt Naylor, who also co-wrote the script along with Chow. The film revolves around a video game live streamer's struggle as he's struggle for survival. He's forced to stay alone in his apartment in Seoul during a zombie apocalypse. Now, this was released sometime back in June, and it was available on Netflix around September 8th. I believe it's actually still being on Netflix if you've not seen the film. Now, I actually liked this film very much. The main star, Chow Ying-eun, plays Woo Young-hoo. He lives in his apartment. He streams video games all day long, probably playing it on Twitch. And now while his family is out, all of a sudden there's disease being spread into his apartment complex. Next thing you know, the people are turning into flesh-eating zombies, and he's trapped in his apartment. He stays in his apartment until he realizes that across the street from his apartment, there is another survivor, and the two of them try to find ways to survive and get out the situation that they're at. And I thought this was a very nice film. I actually like how they use modern technology in this film with something we have not seen in this subgenre of horror. So my first highly recommended film is a South Korean horror film called Alive, or Hashtag Alive. Now, my second highly recommended film is the 2020 horror comedy slasher film called Freaky. Now, this was directed by Christopher Landon. He is the guy that gave us Happy Death Day to Me. Now, similar to what Happy Death Day to Me was, which was a horror version of Groundhog Day, Freaky is a horror version on the Freaky Friday plot twist. Now, this movie starred Vince Vaughn and Catherine Newton, where Vince Vaughn plays a serial killer or a slasher, and Catherine Newton plays a shy, meek teenage girl. He's his victim, and they switch places, and hilarity ensues between this movie. Now, Vince Vaughn did a good job not only playing a serial killer, but also playing Catherine Newton's teenage character. We have some funny moments in the film. There's this funny moment in the film where Vince Vaughn, now you have to understand, Vince Vaughn's a very big guy, but when he's running as, I believe the woman's name was Chloe. I think that's what her name was. No, Millie. When he's running as Millie, and he's supposed to run like a girl. And it was funny. I thought that scene was very funny because Vince Vaughn, he's a big guy. And I thought it was a nice scene. We really get some nice practical effects. We get some bloody gore all over the place. So I didn't hold back on the blood and the gore, and I really appreciate that. So my second highly recommended film is Freaky. And now here we go. It is time to present my top 10 best horror movies of 2020. Here we go. Let's start with number 10. Coming in at number 10 is the American action horror film called Unhinged. This was directed by Derek Brody, and it stars Academy Award winner Russell Crowe, Karen Prestosteris, and Gabriel Bateman. In this particular film, Russell Crowe plays a very unhinged man who's going through a whole bunch of crap. When he gets stuck in traffic, Rachel Flynn, who's also going through another bad day, they get stuck in traffic, and she literally just blows his horn at him because he's stuck in traffic because he's pissed off at the world. Let's just say that he's not happy with what she done, and he spends the next movie just making her life miserable, and he does it in very brutal fashion. We get some nice violent scenes in the film. He goes about his way to make sure that Rachel will ever forget for blowing him off. So coming in at number 10 is Unhinged. Coming in at number 9 is Becky. This film was directed by Jonathan Millett and Karen Million. This stars Lulu Wilson, Kevin James, and Joy McHale. Now, in this particular film, we see the titular character, Becky. She's not very happy. Her mother probably passed away, and now her father's about to remarry into this new family. She meets her new stepmother and her new stepson. And while at the same time, Kevin James, who plays a neo-Nazi in here, has escaped from prison and they're going to the same house. That's because there's something there. When they get there, Becky has to save her father and her new stepmother and son from the clutches of Kevin James' neo-Nazi gang that is there in the house. And she does it in very brutal fashion, too. I mean, they don't hold back on the blood. Once again, Lulu Phillips, who we saw on Ouija, Origin of Evil, and Annabelle Creation. She's great. She's becoming a huge fixture in the horror genre. Kevin James also does a good job here. Playing against type here, he was very convincing as a very mean, no-nonsense character. There's a great scene involving an eye, which I won't say anything more. But coming in at number 9 is Becky. Coming in at number 8, it is The Hunt. This was directed by Craig Zubel, was written by Nick Krause and Damien Lindelof. The film stars Betty Giplin and Hilary Swank. Now, this particular film, they tell an exaggerated story about the opposite sides of the aisle between the side. Basically, we see these people that get kidnapped in the beginning of the film, and they get placed in this outdoor place, and they're being hunted by the people who we might be on the left and right. We're really not given identities. Like I said, there's a more exaggerated tale about the political sides of left and right. But then there's just one person, that's Billy Giplin's character, Casey, Crystal. She's a badass in this particular one, and she doesn't hold back. Nice bloody scenes, some really good violence, and perhaps one of the best fight scenes between two girls, between Betty Giplin and Hilary Swank. Very good movie. Really loved it a lot. So coming in at number 8 is The Hunt. Coming in at number 7 is The Host. This was a found footage horror movie that was directed by Rob Savage. Now, the interesting thing about this one, because this movie was filmed during the pandemic. All the characters filmed all their scenes in the locations where they were locked down with during the early days of the pandemic. And all of them actually take place. They actually had to do their scenes in the places that they were locked down at. All the practical effects were actually done at their locations. And I believe Rob Savage has directed them from his location as well. So it's very fitting. Almost reminds me of Unfriended, the way the setup is done. Everything is actually done through webcams and their computers. Very nice, well-paced picture. We see this group of friends. They decide to hold a seance while they're in lockdown. And of course, insanity happens because they do something stupid. That's what happens when you mess with the supernatural, and insanity takes place. Everyone does a good job. Really enjoyed the film very much. So coming in at number 7 is Host. Coming at number 6, we have the psychological horror picture called The Lodge. Now, this film was directed by Veronica France and Servan Felita. This movie starred Riley Keough, Jaden Martell, Leah McHugh, and Alicia Silverstone. Now, this was a very interesting horror movie. We have this guy, Richard, who decides to take his new fiancée to stay at his family's Christmas lodge. This is probably after a year where his first wife committed suicide, and he thinks that he can get his teenage son Aiden and his younger daughter Maya to like her. Unfortunately, when he has to go back into the city, they are now trapped up there thanks to a winter snowstorm, and craziness ensues. We find out that Grace used to belong to some type of cult, and they did mind trips on them. And basically, that's what happens to Grace while she's staying up there with Maya and Aiden. Now, I actually did like this film. There was one certain part of the film I did not like. I wish that they'd included that at the end of the movie instead of near the beginning of the movie. I think this would have been higher ranked on my list because some of the imagery was very frightening, very scary. I thought they really did a good job, but because of how they formatted the film, I thought had they put a certain part in the film at the end, the payoff would have been a lot better. But it's still a good horror movie. So coming at number 6 is The Lodge. Coming in at number 5, we have Run! Now, this film was directed by Unhinged, and this stars Sarah Paulson and Kira Allen. Now, basically, they play a mother-daughter, with Sarah Paulson being the mother and Kira Allen being the daughter, named Chloe. Now, Chloe is wheelchair-bound. We see in the beginning of the film that looks like she was born as a premature baby. And we see that Diane, Sarah Paulson's character, has done a pretty good job in raising Chloe. She gets along very well. She's very highly intelligent. She's been homeschooled by her mother. It looks like she's ready to go off to college when all of a sudden Chloe started noticing weird things that maybe Diane might not have her best interests in heart. There's a lot of stuff that happens throughout the film, but mainly this film works mainly because of the performances of the two leads. Of course, Sarah Paulson is excellent. What I didn't know at the time that I do know now was that Kira Allen is actually wheelchair bound in real life, and she does a fantastic job, and it was very nice to see a person with disabilities shine on the big screen, and we need more roles for people with disabilities in movies like this, and she does a pretty good job. So coming at number 5 is Run. Coming in at number 4, we have the Australian horror drama called Relic. This was directed by Natalie Erica. This film stars Emily Mortimer, Robin Novell, and Bella Heathcliff. Now, this movie is very fascinating because we get to see Ella, who's obviously suffering from dementia, and her daughter Kate, and her grandson Sam all travel to her remote facility when they find out that she's lost. We don't know where she is. I'll say about a couple of days later, she turns up and like nothing is wrong. So obviously we spend the whole film with these 3 women all going through what Ina is going through. And we actually get to see a physical representation of a person suffering from this deadly disease. And I thought all 3 women did a fantastic job in acting. I love the setting, the isolation setting. I love the cinematography, how they did it. And I love the physical aspects about what they show, what a person is going through when their mind is turning into Swiss cheese, unfortunately. And that really gets some very horrific imagery, especially when we get to the 3rd act and when real crazy shit happens throughout the film. And I highly recommend it. So coming in at number 4 is Relic. Alright, coming in at number 3, we have Mom, Mothers of Monsters. This film was directed and written by Tushia Lyman, and it stars Bailey Edwards and Melinda Page Hamilton. Now, this film is about a mother. There's another found footage film. When she suspects that her son is about to do something very dangerous at school, she decides to record everything about what's happening with her son because she fears something bad is going to happen to him. And we get to see this very dark and contrast relationship between the mother and son. Now, we don't know whether or not Jacob, that's his name, is or is not suffering to any type of psychological tendencies, but we can see that he's suffering through something, and we get to see a very dynamic relationship between the 2 of them. They have good moments and they have bad moments, and it's all reflected onto this video. And then obviously when he realizes what she's doing and the tables get turned on her. And it's very frightening to see this stuff in real time because we do have some instances where this happens. And I really love the performances between Melinda and Bailey. They really did a good job. And like I said before, really highly recommended to see this film. You have it. But coming in at number 3 is Mom, Mothers of Monsters. Coming in at number 2, we have The Rental. This was produced and directed by Dave Franco in his directorial debut. He also co-wrote the screenplay with Joe Swanberg. It was based upon This film stars Dan Stevens, Alison Blair, Sheila Vaughn, and Jeremy Allen White and Toby Hayes. And basically, we have two couples who begin to suspect that they're being watched in the house that they rented. Now, we get to see these two couples, Charlie, his wife Michelle, his brother Josh, and his business partner Mina, who is also Josh's girlfriend. They decide to rent a seaside house for a getaway weekend. Uh, Unfortunately, what happens is something happens between the two couples, and then while trying to keep something a secret, they discover that this house is being watched. And throughout the rest of the movie, we try to find out what's going on, who's watching them, or also trying to keep the secret between the two couples. I really did love the dynamics of this particular film. It was a different type of premise. We get this false lead throughout, I would say, by the second and third act of the film. Now, although a lot of people did not like what happens when the truth about what's happening is revealed in the third act of the film, but from my point of view, is that because I enjoyed the character so much and I thought all the actors did a good job, I didn't mind the reveal because I started caring for these couples. I wanted to find out what was going on and what's going to happen with these couples when the truth gets revealed. And that's why The Rental is number 2 on my list. And now, the number 1 horror film of 2020 will be, I am pretty sure you guessed it by now, that's right, The Invisible Man. Yes. Written and directed by Lee Winnell, based upon the novel by the same name by H.G. Wells. This film stars Elizabeth Moss, Adis Hodge, Storm Reed, and Oliver Jackson Cohen. It's basically about a woman who believes she's being stalked and gaslit by her abusive and wealthy boyfriend, even after his apparent suicide, and ultimately deduced that he has acquired the ability to become invisible. Ooh. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people try to compare this film to Kevin Bacon's Hollow Man, which I thought was a very interesting take on the invisibility subgenre that we've seen in most films, like, the original Universal Monsters, Invisible Man, Invisible Man Return. We have Hollow Man. Now we have this. Now, obviously, Elizabeth Moss was great in this role right here. I thought she did a fine job playing it. She was very scared, very terrified. We see the progression as she tries to overcome after leaving leaving Aiden, and then trying to overcome her fear and try to get back to like the normal, only to be stalked by a person who can't be seen. I like the setup. I liked how the film ended. I thought that now, after the terrible disaster that was Tom Cruise's The Mummy, and this now has revitalized Hollywood's take on trying to redo or reboot or remake the Universal Monsters franchises. So I'm pretty sure that as long as Lee Winnell has a hand in it, we'll get some more movies like this. My best horror film of 2020, The Invisible Man. So there you have it. That is my top 10 horror movies of 2020. Now, once again, this is my list because this is my show. This is my channel. Obviously, you might agree with me. You might disagree with me. So, what do you believe are your top 10 horror films of 2020? Leave your comments in the comment section below and tell me what are your top 10 horror films of this year. And so there you have it. That is my top 10. That's my video for the day, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, please give it a like and share because it does help with the algorithm YouTube has here. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscriber button and ring that notification bell. That way you'll be notified anytime when I put up new videos such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Money G. And I want to wish all you and your families to please have a safe and happy Christmas. And I'll see you in my next video. I am out.